TuxTalks, today I bring you an updated build for the Division 2 Countdown game mode so that you can load up on gear, more gear, and exotics. Let's do it! Whether you're a new player, a returning player, or a veteran, there's no better farm than the Countdown game mode. It has this targeted loot system that you can use to pinpoint the gear that you're looking for. And then watch it rain, especially at the end where you just get tons of named items dropping, as well as all the loot you can eat. It's especially cool for farming exotics. So when you successfully extract from Countdown game mode, you get these requisition credits that you can spend at the Countdown vendor at the base of operations. Here you can buy the weekly rotating named items or caches, including exotic caches. That makes this game mode one of the best ways, if not the best way, to farm exotics in the Division 2. So if you're looking for exotics such as the St. Elmo's or the Memento, just go into the targeted loot system and set it to assault rifles or backpacks if you're looking for the Memento. Then play away. This is the best way to get exotics to drop during gameplay. It's not uncommon to get 3 or 4 exotics in a typical gameplay session from Countdown.
Entering dog zone.
Today, I bring you a tank DPS build that allows you to be self-sufficient within that wolf pack because you can't rely on what those other 7 players are going to bring to the table. So this is the build, and I have some alternate pieces here for those of you that don't have everything that I have. Let's start with the gear set. So this is Heartbreaker, has assault rifle and LMG damage, weapon handling, the talent Heartstopper. So headshots apply a pulse for 5 seconds. Don't skip that. That's an important element. You need to get the pulse in order to build stacks. And weapon hits on pulsed enemies add a stack of 1% bonus armor and 1% weapon damage to pulsed enemies, up to a max stack of 50. That's 50% damage, 50% bonus armor. I have a red core, crit damage, and protection from elites. Don't worry if you don't have max protection from elite mods, but if you're looking for those, you can get them from Countdown 2. Just be sure to head into that targeted loot and set it to mods. Now, this normally comes with armor, so you're going to be looking for pieces that have crits on it so that you can reroll the core. The backpack is pretty essential to feeling godly inside Countdown game mode. This one has armor and crit chance, so really easy to farm. Another protection from elites mod. So the talent, increased total bonus armor gained per stack from 1% to 2%. When combined with the chest piece, that's 200% bonus armor. Whoa. Okay, the gloves, weapon damage, crit damage, and the holster is weapon damage and crit damage. This can also be the knees. Now here's where the magic begins. So the knees are improvised. Mine has an armor core, crit damage and crit chance, and protection from elites. That's the improvised gear superpower. You can put on a mod, making them extremely flexible. It saves you a ton of stash space and worth the investment, although they're expensive because they eat resources to create. And this is how you make them. So you just go into the crafting station, scroll to the bottom here, and begin crafting. And so look at the resources on the right, and this is up to RNG to deliver. Now don't worry if yours aren't God rolled like mine. It's not going to impact the build too much, and they don't have to have armor. So what you're looking for is anything with armor or weapon damage and crits, and the mod is up to you. And then you can optimize later as needed. Okay, the mask. It's called the Chill Out Mask, and you can get this by farming the Loot Goblin during the holiday season, which is just around the corner from when this video is being released. And I have an alternate for this in case you don't have the Chill Out Mask, but let me show you what it does. So this is Gila, so it's giving me 5% more total armor. I rolled this to a red core. It's got crit damage on it and protection from elite mods. So its superpower is it gives you an extra mod slot, making it a very flexible piece to create different builds. With that final piece, I'm at 75% protection from elites. The cap is 80%. Why am I doing this? Well, in this game mode, Countdown, there's basically nothing but elites. It's rare to see non-elites in this game mode. So we're basically debuffing them by 75% or increasing your resistance by 75% against all the enemies. Protection from elites is the way to go in Countdown. It's really, really handy. And if you notice, I'm running shieldless, relying on the bonus armor. And the protection from elites protects your bonus armor. So it makes it very difficult for them to peel that away. You're basically stacking it as they're trying to peel it. And that's the magic of this build and why I'm allowed to run around without a shield out of cover full time and even take those hunters on base first. I'm running the Mender Seeker. This also heals your team, but you don't really need it. It was just sort of like, yeah, I'll just do it for the team. But a shield will also work. That's going to up your resistance a ton. And then you will need at least one fixer. So I'm running the fixer drone here. You don't have any other source of heals on your build. So you need something. It's not a very strong fixer, and that's okay because you have tons of bonus armor. So this is all happening in the background. So I'm running Survivalist. That's giving us 10% more protection from elites. That's how we got to 75 in the end. And that's what also unlocks the Mender Seeker. Firewall is the next best thing that's going to give you access to the Striker Shield, which actually gives you more damage as well as a layer of defense. A very good option. I'm using the Rock and Roll as a backup weapon to help build stacks real quickly. I don't need it a ton, but really helpful. Just make sure you get in a headshot. If you don't have the Rock and Roll, just use any ACS. Now for the primary, and the reason why I updated this build is for the Ouroboros, and because I introduced the Ouroboros, I decided to make a countdown build for it, which is what brings this video out today. So I know many of you don't have the Ouroboros, so I'm gonna give you some alternates, really good ones. So this has 1485 RPM, 50 in a mag, damage to targets out of cover, 1.3 second reload, and the talent gives you a status effect when you get a status effect on half of your mag. We're not really playing into the talent, it's just there. So we're using this mostly for its stacking capability and really good DPS and sustained damage. So if you don't have the Ouroboros, which by the way you can get from the Incursion, I recommend the St. Elmo's. And so it's really good because it has a large mag and those enemies are really tanky, so having that large mag is pretty nice. Damage to targets out of cover, you have really good stability and accuracy, and then you get the shock ammo, which is really good against those guys. It really just stops them from pushing up on you. Hold them steady, even the hunters. So that's what makes this one a really good weapon. Now, if you don't have the St. Elmo's, well, you can get it from the Countdown game mode. Just make sure you turn on the targeted loot to assault rifles. An equally great option is the Kingbreaker. So this naturally goes with the gear set. 650 RPM, very high base weapon damage, 50 in the mag, damage to targets out of cover, and perfect flatline, which is 20% amp damage to pulse targets. Remember, the gear set pulses targets. You just have to squeeze in that headshot. Really cool. It also hosts the laser pointer, which automatically pulses targets, in which case you don't have to worry about those headshots so much. And you get access to that by running Technician and unlocking the laser pointer. You would be missing out on 10% protection from elites, but it would be worth it if you decided to go with the Kingbreaker. I want to give you alternates to the mask because I know many of you don't have the chill out. The next best or maybe even better option overall, just depends on how you want to play.
Hey Bandidos, the community we have built together wouldn't have been possible without you. So as a thank you for supporting my channel, I am bringing you the hookup on member perks, including even more Division 2 content and the celebrated gaming music playlists. If you're not part of Tux's Players Club, now is your chance. It's the Coyote Mask. So if you take the Coyote Mask and put on that Protection from Elites mod there, this is really cool because you're playing 0 to 15 meters most of the time anyways. That's 25% crit hit damage and you're getting more crits. So it actually bolsters our stats just a little bit, At the same time, you are buffing your entire team, giving them more crits. Very helpful. And it's technically a little bit stronger. So it's just up to you. Do you want 75% protection from elites or 62% protection from elites with more crits? Both are good options. There's no wrong choice there, but that one at least buffs the team. You could also go Catharsis, which is going to give you 30% weapon damage. Now, the challenge with that is it's the enemy that's in charge of applying damage to you so that you build those stacks. But when you get to 30, you purge and you heal yourself and your team can take those heals as well. Now, it has an income and repair and armor regen. We don't really need that. I'd rather have crits, so it's taking some damage away from me too. So that's the downside of this, but it's a really good option. Now, if you don't have any of those things, then I recommend putting Heartbreaker here instead. Go ahead and put protection from elites and then just run your contractor's gloves for more damage to armor. Totally worth it. And I have a striker build as well for this game mode that I created last season. You should check this one out too. It's actually pretty cool. It uses the shocker punch, and in there you get some good use out of it because there's mobs and you can spread that shock to multiple enemies. It's actually really fun. I'd be running it on this build too if it worked with the Ouroboros, which it doesn't. So if you decide to use the St. Elmo
Elmos, actually give this a try with the Shocker Punch. It's quite good. And you don't need the shield, but if you do decide to run the shield, that's how you get the spread of the shock to multiple enemies, but you can still shock without the shield. You just have to melee. And so it's really good for crowd controlling, even as just a DPS player. It's worth it. And maybe the best application for that Shocker Punch holster.
Hostile broadcast picked up.
I've been playing Countdown from basically day one. In the beginning, the community was creating tons of builds for this game mode. Over time, I realized I didn't need a ton of builds for Countdown. Why? Because of the wolf pack mentality in there. So you can matchmake with this cooperative game mode. There's multiple difficulties, and challenging and heroic are the most popular. The deal is when you're running around with 8 allies, it's sometimes like 8 versus 1. You're all shooting at the same target. And so getting the kill is like a crapshoot. It just comes down to who's stuck in the last bullet. And so that eliminates a lot of builds from being like great options in this game mode. It's the group and the size of that group being 8, that is the damage. And that is the resistance. So 8 people are spreading the aggro across themselves, and 8 people are putting out that damage. So you're just an element in that equation, right? You're just a contributor. Of course, that's not always the case. Sometimes you find yourself on an island all alone, standing by a door, and where an entire battalion just comes pouring out and gives you all they got. So with those two scenarios being the most common, then that's what your build needs to be able to handle. You need to be able to stand on your own and take those enemies out, as well as have the resistance to survive it, because that situation happens more often than not. Reality is, you also need a build that makes sense for running side by side in a pack with 7 additional players. And because there's 8 players, the enemies are going to be extremely bullet spongy in there. It's really gross how spongy they are. They don't deal a ton of damage, but they soak up a lot of bullets. So you need to make sure you go in with a build that's pretty strong if you want to have any sort of fun in there. Otherwise, it can kind of be frustrating how many mags you have to put into an enemy. There's like not a lot of play from cover situations happening in this game mode, so you want to build that can spend all its time out of cover for the most part. Whether you run a shield or not is up to you, but running things like composure or the Sawyer's knee pads that keep you in cover aren't always the greatest ideas for this game mode. So for Countdown, the 2 most popular builds are this. One that is strong, a tank DPS type build that is self-sufficient. And the other is a build that is entirely created to buff the wolf pack. And I've found in this game mode that the best self-sustaining builds are tank DPS builds. And Heartbreaker was designed for Countdown, or was designed the same time Countdown came out. So it's just a natural fit. Lots of enemies, easy to stack things. So you really want to stay away from things like armor on kill or whatever, you know, but with this one, you're just shooting, pointing and shooting, building stacks. The most difficult encounters you're going to have really are the hunters. And so this build has been tested against challenging and heroic hunters and large mobs of enemies. And it's got great damage and resistance. And that's what you're looking for. So the Countdown game mode is really popular. If you're matchmaking, I tend to suggest you go ahead and just play challenging. For one, the enemies aren't as bullet spongy, which is kind of nice. But because somebody tends to accidentally delta or quit while you're in your run, playing on challenging ensures you're still able to complete it with whatever team you have left, or helps ensure. And the loot quality and quantity is basically the same between challenging and heroic. I haven't noticed anything different, but it can be difficult when you're running with randoms that are deltaing all over the place or still haven't figured out what the strategy is. And if that's you, if you're still new, just take it on challenging. There's nothing wrong with taking this game mode in on challenging. It actually feels kind of better. It goes a little bit faster, not as frustrating because they're not as tanky. So I'm starting to do Countdown runs at least once a week for the community, because I know a lot of you guys really look forward to this game mode. It's a great farm. You're looking for exotics. You're looking for people to run with back to back, consistently clearing it and just having a really good time. And I do have a good time when I play this one. And if you're looking for the Ouroboros, if you haven't got it, you should join us on our live streams. We're usually running the Incursion on Tuesdays and Wednesdays to help the community get their Ouroboros. I play on the Xbox. If you don't and you need assistance, the best place to go is Discord. And also be sure to watch this video to make sure you have the right builds and you're up to speed on the strategy. So what do you think about this build, Bandidos? When you go into Countdown game mode, do you run builds that bring their own self-sufficiency, or do you go in there with builds that buff the entire team? Let me know. Thank you for hanging out with me today. My name is TuxedoBandido, and this was another episode of The Division 2. If you found this video helpful, subscribe, like, and turn on notifications to ensure you don't miss out on the fantastic experiences waiting for you in The Division 2. And if you like builds like this, check out the recommended build video I have here for you. If you have anything you want to see covered, be sure to let me know in the comments below. And thank you to all the channel members and donors who make everything possible. Tux Nation wouldn't be without you.
Follow me.
I get it.